Hi, welcome back. In this video, we're going to go over the radio elements. I'm currently in the app builder. I'm going to jump into the elements tab and hop over to the forms section. I can see the different form elements, and I'm just going to look for my radio button right here in the bottom left corner. I'm going to go ahead and drag this into my form. I'm just going to try and style this and just try and get it to center. So I'm going to say margin right, auto, margin left, auto. All right, and put some margin at the top, call it 20 pixels. All right, not much has happened here, and that's probably because of our elements is displayed inline. If I switch it to display block, then we get the effect of our margins. All right, so this is going to be similar to input elements and other form elements. If we jump into the attributes, we're going to see similar fields: app data field, manage data flow, value, checked, name, display. This is very similar to the checkbox, right? So let's just go take it from the top. App data field is the field in our app data or in our applications data, right, that is binded to this element. And as you can see, it's radio button 1. By default, the system is going to name it, give it the same name of the element's ID, but we can go ahead and change that if we want, and we will in this video. Manage data flow, simply when true, simply means that you get to manage the data binding. By default, this is false because the system gets to manage the data binding. The value is simply the value of our radio button. And also we have some helpers here, and you can always peek in and see, get some pointers. All right, the checked is simply saying if the button should be checked or not. And this is going to be in effect if you are managing the data flow. All right, the name is just a HTML attribute name for forms. The disabled is basically just the disabled attributes. If true, then our radio button will be disabled. Autofocus, title, require, draggable. These are all standard HTML form attributes. Non-reactive simply means that we do not want our elements to react to app data changes. There are certain scenarios where this can be used for performance purposes, but in this case, we do not need it. All right. So I am going to go ahead and click on our radio button, hop into our app data, scroll to the bottom, and we don't really see anything. And that is because, let me do that again and just show you again. Click on it again, jump back into our app data, and nothing. All right. And this is probably because there's no value to our radio button. So let's go ahead and change this to say boy. Click on it again. If I were to jump into my app data, I can see radio button 1 is now set to boy. All right. And if I were to click on it again, nothing happens because of this is the default behavior of radio buttons. Unlike checkboxes that toggle on and off, radio buttons, when set, can only be onset by perhaps another data event outside of itself. All right. So let's go ahead and duplicate this element. I'm going to click on it and click on Control right. So now I have 2. So I'm going to go ahead and set our app data field for the first one to sex. Now it's boy. And for the second one, I'm going to go ahead and also set it to sex, right? And have the value set to girl. All right. Now, as you can see, we have 2 radio buttons binded to the same app data field, right? One set to boy, one set to girl. And if I were to click on one, the other one toggles off. So now if I were to go back into my app data, radio button or the sex, now it says girl. If I were to click on the one that has the value of boy, then if I go back over there, the sex is set to boy. All right. So it's really that simple. Now, what if we wanted to manage the data flow by ourselves, right? So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. So we're going to do it for the first one, and we're going to leave the second one as is. So for the first one, I'm going to go ahead and manage the data flow. And because I'm managing the data flow, I need to then set the events for data change. We do something very similar in our input over here. We have a function that we've already written. You can look at the inputs video, the inputs text area video. But we have a function called basic inputs on change. We're going to use that function here as well in our radio button. All right. And this function is looking for an app data field. And I'm just going to call that field sex because that's what we're calling the app data field. And if we just peek into this function really quickly by jumping into the app builder, you can just see that this is a parameter that we've created called app data field. And we are basically using the function step called updates client app data. This function step is simply setting data to our app data. And in this case, the data we are setting is our events target value, which is a system generated parameter because this is a form element that has a value. So because it has a value, that events target value is going to be populated, and we're using our function to basically set this using a managed data flow. So as you can see, I've clicked on it, and if I were to check my app data, right, the sex is blank. Well, let's go ahead and do this again. All right, actually, let's click out of it. All right, so the sex is a girl. And then when we click into it, the sex is a boy, right? But you notice that it's empty, right? And this is because we are managing the data flow, so we have to basically set our checked flag. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to change this to code. We can use no code for this, but I'm going to just change this to code and use code because this is probably quicker. Using the JavaScript syntax, I'm just going to type parameter dot app underscore data. Remember, the app data is capital A, capital D with an underscore, right? I'm going to say sex is equals to boy. All right, so this is the condition for the checked flag to be true. If not, it's false, right? And there you go. Now our radio button is showing our checked state. For it to click on the other one, it toggles off, click back on it, it toggles back on, and in this case, we are managing the data flow. All right, so that's it for this video. See you in the next one.